board meeting to order. And I will be introducing our chaplain, Larry Lange, to give us an invocation and a moment of silence and remembrance of our past president and treasurer, Dick Strombotne.
All right. Whoops. Hold on here. Let's see. Larry.
Larry Lange.
Yeah, Larry. All right. If you, Larry, can you hear us?
Yes. I just got to start my video.
All right.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay. I keep clicking on start my video.
Oh, almost. There you go.
Okay.
You got it.
Good. So I'm ready to go?
Yep, you're good, Larry.
Okay, good, thanks. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May we please have a moment of individual reflection. Our NARFE Maryland Federation and its chapters, our state, our nation, literally the entire world are faced with many serious issues, both national and international. On both of these levels, the pandemic and dealing with it and its consequences are uppermost on our minds every day. Nationally, many of our fellow Americans and NARFE members have been directly impacted by serious tragedies, including property damage, flooding, and loss of life caused by the recent several hurricanes and the horrendous toll on life and property from the absolutely horrific wildfires that have ravaged several of the upper northwestern states in our country. May we keep all these Americans and NARFE members in our hearts and prayers. And as always, NARFE is faced with issues that threaten our earned employment and retirement benefits. We are truly fortunate to have our skilled, dedicated, and talented board members working for our federation, and we thank them for their dedication to NARFE. We look forward to today's meeting to learn, to work together, to help each other toward realizing our constant, ongoing goal of accomplishing NARFE's mission and to enjoy the camaraderie of again interacting with our fellow Maryland Federation members to enjoy and benefit from each other's presence today. I'd now like to do a in memoriam for Dick Strombotne. NARFE has lost one of its most dedicated, hardworking members ever in the history of our organization. Dick worked tirelessly on behalf of NARFE's Maryland chapters, our state's federation, and national NARFE, and he will be greatly missed by all who knew and worked with him. Dick graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from Claremont, California's Pomona College, and earned his master's degree and his doctorate, both in physics, at the Berkeley campus of the University of California. He joined the staff of the Radio Standards Laboratory, part of what is now the National Bureau of Standards, in Boulder, Colorado in 1961. In 1968, he transferred to the U.S. Department of Transportation, working in the Office of the Secretary, and in 1977, he transferred to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, where he worked until his retirement in 1996. His professional accomplishments were many and incredibly impressive. Dick and his wife, Marty, celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary in August of 2012. Their 4 adult children, Laura, Mark, Tom, and Brian, joined them in this happy and auspicious occasion. Dick and Marty have several grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Dick joined NARFE in 1996. He attended all of Maryland's NARFE Federation conventions and NARFE's national conventions, having authored several resolutions which were adopted at national conventions. He also served twice on the National Convention's Legislative Committee and ran as a candidate for NARFE's national treasurer. Dick served as president of the Gaithersburg NARFE, Chapter 581, from the years 2002 to 2004, and was president of NARFE's Maryland Federation. On numerous occasions, Dick gave testimony before the Maryland General Assembly on issues of importance to NARFE. Maryland Governor Ehrlich appointed Dick as NARFE's representative to the Maryland Elderly Migration Task Force in 2004. Dick was inducted into the Maryland Senior Citizens Hall of Fame and additionally received the Care One Blue Cross Blue Shield Distinguished Annuitant Award. Dick's wife, Marty has also worked ceaselessly for their NARFE chapters and for the Maryland Federation. Together, they formed a team that all levels of NARFE owe an extreme offer of gratitude for all their work for NARFE and for being an example of truly exemplary, outstanding members of our organization. May we now have a moment of silence to hold in our hearts and prayers Dick's wife, Marty, their family, and all the other NARFE members who have passed away this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you there, Chaplain Larry Lange.
Certainly.
Next, we will have our Pledge of Allegiance by our second Vice President, Ed Reed.
Okay, let me get. Okay, all right. Okay, Ed, you should be able to unmute, Ed.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
This is it. Okay, folks, if you can see my picture over my left shoulder, there's the American flag. Oh, you've got me covered. I had it both ways. We'll all sit at attention in our homes. Put your right hand over your left heart, or if you're a veteran, you may salute uncovered in your home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Second Vice President Ed. And we will be moving on to our national anthem, sung by our treasurer, Stuart Sklamm.
All right, I'm bringing Stuart on. And let's see. Stuart should be popping up here. All right. There we go. Okay, so now Stuart, just turn on your audio and your video down at the bottom of your screen and unmute yourself. There we go. All right, unmute yourself there, Stuart. Okay. Say
Can you
something.
hear me?
Yes, yes.
There you go.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Stu. Next on our agenda, we will have our roll call by the Maryland Federation Secretary, Pat Farmer.
And there was 2 Pat Farmers on the list, so hopefully Pat,
I'm on the screen.
okay, great.
2 Pat Farmers?
Yeah, here, I'm just gonna take the other one off. That's okay. Okay, all right.
She doesn't
Okay.
work at two people. That's good.
Yeah. And Pat, I put the roll call on the screen as well.
Okay. So how are they going to respond?
Okay, so here's, hold on. I am going to lower all hands. Okay, so the way, the only way we can do this is when Pat calls your name, then press the button on the bottom that says raising your hand. Okay, now Pat, would you like me to basically say, you know, like acknowledge that they raised their hand?
Yeah, you could say here.
Okay, all right. So, okay, so, all right. So if you want to just, we'll do our best to kind of make this thing work here. So,
Okay. So
okay.
go ahead and start. President, Dr. Gary Roundtree Sr.
Present.
First Vice President, Legislative Director, NARFE PAC Coordinator, Dr. Suda Haley.
Let's see.
She raised her hand.
Oh, she's with Bruce Fowler. That's right.
He's with Bruce Fowler. Yeah.
Yep, here. Okay.
Okay. Second Vice President and Membership Director, Ed Reed.
Here.
Secretary, Newsletter Editor, NARFE Maryland Representative to MGA, Pat Farmer. Here. Assistant Secretary, Virginia Bender.
Oh, okay. Here.
Treasurer, Stuart Sklamm.
We know he's here.
Yeah. Assistant Treasurer, Budget Officer, Dave Roseman.
I don't see him on the call.
Okay. Immediate past President, Dan McGrath.
He's here. I found him. Yep.
He just raised it. He's good.
Okay. I don't believe that past President Ted Jensen is on the call, or Ron Bowers, or past Region 2 Vice President Sam Gerson.
Yeah. Let's see. Evelyn Kirby.
I don't think Evelyn's on either. It's the past Region 2 Vice President. Region 2 Vice President Kathy Adams.
She's here and she just raised her hand.
Okay. Chapter Presidents. 126 Western Charles, Indian Head, Co-Presidents Ed Rice and Ron Bush. I don't think they registered.
Yeah, I don't see either one.
Okay. 251 Annapolis, Carla Dolls.
Yep, here, just raised her hand.
Okay.
Yep.
258 Western Montgomery County, Lois Beaver.
Yes, here.
Okay. 306 Hagerstown, Patricia Nix.
Here.
409 Frederick, Eleanor Abreu.
Here.
410 Westmar, Daniel Moore. I don't think he registered.
Okay.
422 Laurel President and Federation Parliamentarian Samuel Raines.
Yep. Here. Boyd Laughlin. I don't. Uh-oh. Pat? Unmute. Unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Okay,
I must have hit it by accident.
okay. Kathy Schwab is here.
Yeah, okay. That's 1127 Rockville. So 1143 Leisure World, Joe Cook should be representing John Mullins. Joe here?
I don't see him. No, no,
Okay. 1260 Southern Prince George's County, William Guthrie.
not in the audience.
Okay. 1372 Tidewater, Jerry Phillips.
Yep, here.
Okay. 1466 Calvert County, Greg Stottlemyre.
Let's see. I got Laura Sadler raising her hand. I'm not sure if that's
Jean Sadler.
it. Probably because.
Okay,
Oh.
she's with Jerry Phillips.
Oh, okay. All right. So that would be Jerry Phillips then.
Yeah. Okay. So Greg's not on.
Let me actually. The other Pat Farmer is raising their hand. Let's see who that is.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. Somebody else with the Pat Farmer name in the audience. You just raised your hand.
We have a Patricia Nix, but no Pat Farmer.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've if you can hear me, it's Greg Stottlemyre. I've been pressing the raise hand button.
Oh, okay. Here, I got it.
Yeah.
Here,
Barry
I got it.
Barry
Okay.
Greer resigned a while back and he doesn't Zoom. So I'm representing 1466.
Okay, this
Gotcha.
is good.
Thank you, Greg.
I just changed your name so it's correct on the screen. Okay, that's great, Greg. Thanks.
All right, so 1519 Glen Burnie, co-presidents Don Bender and Bob Mangini. I think Don should be on.
Okay. Yep, got done.
Okay. 1522 Susquehanna, acting president Barry Decker. I don't think he's on.
Okay, well, Paul Schwartz is hand raised. We might have some renaming stuff. Let me see. Paul?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, Paul's here. Okay, all right. All right, okay. All right, keep on going, Pat.
Okay. 1734 Howard County, Sam Stern, acting president.
Yep, Sam's here.
Okay, and 1747 Greater Bowie Crofton, Frank Lee.
Yeah, I think yep, Frank Lee is here.
1770 Bel Air, Jim Wood.
I don't see anybody with Wood.
Okay.
Now, bear in mind, we've got a few people on the phone.
Right.
So, oh, and actually, you know what? Well, when we get done with this, I'm gonna see if I can get the names of all the people on the phone and I can rename them so that they can be blended into the conversation better. Okay.
Okay. So 1887 Wheaton Glenmont, Ron Shansby.
Yep.
And 1888 White Oak, Paul Hudez is representing Marcia Swanson, and he should be on the phone.
Okay, we'll get to the phone. Everybody on the phone.
We talked about him earlier.
Yeah, everybody on the phone, just hang tight till we're done with this page of the roll call, and then I'm going to figure out who each of you are.
Okay, 1892 Aspen Hill, Resolutions Co-Chair Sarah Richards.
Yep, Sarah's here.
1936 Northwest Baltimore Metro, Barbara Cuffey and Bessie Johnson. I don't think either one are on.
Okay.
1972 Waldorf La Plata, Program Chair, Public Relations Chair, NARFE Maryland rep to the National Fraternal Order of Police and to the Maryland DC Alliance for Retired Americans and the Equity Chair, Committee
Yep.
Chair, Edward
Ed
Howell.
Ed is here.
Okay. 2262 Upper Marlboro, PA Jeffries.
Yep, PA is here.
Okay. 2272 Ocean Area, Assistant to President, Chair of the May 2021 Biennial Conference, Larry Walton.
Present.
Okay. And 2306 Carroll County, Charles Harrison.
Yep. Oh, wait.
Is he here?
No, I don't have him in the audience.
Okay. And the committees. Alzheimer's and FIA Chair, Eleanor Call. She's not on. Audit, Charles Garfinkel.
Yep, he's here.
Ballot and Teller, the Registration Committee, Louise Cole and Lily Watson.
Luis is here, yes. And Lily Watson is here too.
Okay. The Chaplain and the Resolutions Co-Chair, Larry Lange.
Larry's here.
Chapter Development Coordinator, Bernie Goldsboro. I don't believe he's on. Electronic Communications Committee, Linda Adams.
Got Kathleen Adams, but no Linda Adams.
Okay,
But again, for those on the phone, just hang tight till we're done with this page and I'm gonna figure out who you are.
okay. Social media and Facebook, Howard Gordon.
Yeah, Flash Gordon is here.
Okay. Federal Legislative Committee Chair, Dr. Bruce Fowler.
Here.
State Legislative Chair and the Maryland PAC Coordinator, Paul Schwartz.
Yep, here.
MD PAC Treasurer, Bob Doyle.
Here.
Photographer, Melinda Scott.
Here.
Sergeant at Arms, Steve Groom.
Here. Guys are getting good at raising your hands.
Vendor Chair, Doug Fisher. And Webmaster was Doug's here, right?
Yeah, Doug's
Yeah,
here.
he's here. He's
Okay.
here.
And Webmaster Morse Solomon.
Solomon. No, I don't have him, but Pat, I'm gonna briefly, so those of you who are listening on the phone, I'm gonna click on the first phone number here. I've got 240-447. Can you unmute yourself, or is there a way to do that? We'll see if we can make this work. Here, I'm just going to click on the three people. I'm going to allow the three phone numbers we have to talk. Can any of you? We got one. Hello?
Hello, it's Ed Bice.
Ed Bice. Okay, hold on. I'm going to rename you here, Ed. Ed Bice. Okay.
Yeah.
There. Okay, Ed, we got Ed Bice and all right. Thank you, Ed.
Hi, this is Paul Hudis. I've unmuted, I hope.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, and how do you spell your last name?
Hudes, chapter 1888.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Paul.
And you can mute me again.
Yep, I am. And then that leaves us with just one person on the phone with the 240-447 number. So if anybody knows who that is, let me know and I can change that phone number. Okay.
Steve,
So-
I just got a text from somebody. Kathy Adams says she can hear us, but she cannot talk.
Okay, let me see. Kathy Adams. Yeah,
Yes.
no, she's behind the
Right.
curtain. But here, Kathy, just I'm now giving you permission to talk. I just want to. So Kathy, I've asked you to unmute just so that you can, so that everybody can see sort of how all this stuff works. So Kathy.
Thank you very much. I wanted to make sure that I'd be able to give my reports. Thank you.
Okay, you're good. All right.
Okay, Steve, I have one more thing to do. And that is to tell the president, Dr. Gary Roundtree, that we have a quorum.
Thank you, Pat, on letting us know that we have a quorum to conduct official business. We are about 15 minutes earlier.
Boy,
That's
Does
good.
Yes.
that never happens.
Mhm.
Well, let's see.
What I would like to do, our speakers due to come on at 10 a.m. is I like to welcome any visitors or Federation presidents that are attending. We have past President Linwood and Lynn Hill from the Washington, D.C. Federation. Steve, could you check and see if they on?
Let's see. Actually, what would be great is if say those two names again, if both of those people could raise their hand, I can bring them on. Okay, yeah,
Lynn
we
Hill
got,
is the
yep, we
current
got Lynn Hill and we got
past President Linwood.
Okay, well, I got Lynn Hill is on. Lynn?
Good morning.
Good morning, Federation President Lynn.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
We appreciate it. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is Linwood online with you?
No, sir, he's not.
I know he registered.
Linwood? Yeah, I don't have him. Now, let's see.
Steve,
Yes.
his name is Linwood Watson.
Oh, Watson. Okay, hold on. Oh, I got Lily Watson.
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't see. Here's somebody else raising their hand. There might be some renaming issues. Let's see. Oh. Let's see. Let me just see if this is. Hello. I've got you as Ray Oman, but by any chance is that? Hello? Ray?
Ray is from the DC Federation,
Oh, okay. All righty.
I believe.
Okay. And
Chapter 2000.
okay.
Ray
All right. Yeah, I don't see Lynn Watson. Let's see. Jacinta has her hand raised. Let me. Jacinta?
Hi, good morning. I'm with the Southern, I'm a new member and I'm with the Southern Maryland chapter. I live here in St. Mary's County. So good morning. I just wasn't called and I just wanted to chime in. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Okay. All right. So I think that's it, Gary. I don't think we're getting Lynn Watson.
Mhm. All right. Because I invited the president from Pennsylvania, Richard Zuck, and the president from the Delaware Federation president, and the New Jersey Federation president, John Eucharist, and also Lou Katz.
Okay. All All right, I don't, if any of those people are in the audience, please raise your hand so we can recognize you. Okay, not seeing any hands going up there. All right.
Gary,
Yes, Larry.
didn't you invite the Hawaiian president too? Are they on?
Yes, Pat, have we received confirmation on the Hawaii Federation president?
As I mentioned yesterday at our executive committee meeting, I sent her an invitation to the same address that I had communicated with her before, and it was returned. It was undeliverable for some reason.
All
So
right,
I wasn't able to get a hold of her.
all right. So she probably doesn't have the link, and her email is not being accepting emails.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and Gary, I just wanted, there was a question from Dan Grumman whether this is being recorded, and I am recording it. I'm going to try to record it in parts. So we'll have part 1 up to the first break, and then part 2 and 3.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. With that, we have recognized everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call forth our program chair, Ed Holland, to introduce our morning speaker, the Undersecretary of U.S. Department of Commerce, Mr. Eric Hirschhorn. Did I pronounce his name right? I want to pronounce his name right.
It's Hirschhorn.
Hirschhorn.
Okay, and
Hey, I'm here. I'm trying to start a video, but it's not locking in, so I don't know what's going on with that. But thank you, Gary. There I am. Morning, Eric.
Good morning.
By appointment of President Barack Obama, Eric L. Hirschhorn served as the Undersecretary of Commerce for Industry and Security in the U.S. Department of Commerce's Bureau of Industry and Security from 2010 to 2017. BIS is responsible for U.S. export controls on commercial and certain military items, participates in the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, better known as CFIUS, and restricts imports for national security reasons under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. As Undersecretary, Mr. Hirschhorn was the leader of President Obama's export control reform initiative, which streamlined the rules governing exports to the United States' closest allies. Since leaving the federal government in 2017, Mr. Hirschhorn has continued his service as a member of the DC Bar's Rules Committee, been appointed a hearing committee member for DC Lawyer Discipline Proceedings, been appointed a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, been elected a fellow of the National Academy of Public Administration, and been elected a member of the American Law Institute. He has prepared a 4th edition of the Export Control and Embargo Handbook, which will be published by the Oxford Unity Press. He is a member of the Bar of New York and District of Columbia, as well as the U.S. Supreme Court and numerous federal trial and appellate courts. He received his JD degree from Columbia University, where he was a Holland Fisk Stone Scholar, and his BA degree from the University of Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you my old boss, former Undersecretary Eric Hirschhorn. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Ed, and good morning, everyone. Like all of you, I'm a retired federal employee, though I suspect that I have fewer years of federal service, 14 and a half, than anyone else in attendance today. But it's great to be here, even though here is my dining room table. I enjoyed the movie Groundhog Day very much, but I never thought I'd end up living in it. I do want to thank Ed Holland, who was a valued Commerce Department colleague, and I was there, for inviting me to speak today. I'd like to reflect a little bit about what it's like to serve as a political appointee, or more accurately, what it was like to serve during administrations prior to the current one. I'll try to leave a little time for questions and answers at the end of my remarks. I've had 6 government jobs, 5 federal, 1 state, all non-career. The first three were legislative, one in the New York State Assembly and two in the US House of Representatives. And the last three were executive, one on President Jimmy Carter's staff doing government reorganization, two at the US Department of Commerce. My public service stints were interspersed with law practice outside the government in a neighborhood legal services program in New York City and later in several private law firms. In each of my jobs, private and public sector, I dealt with career civil servants as well as folks employed in the private sector. The career government people I worked with were easily a match for those in the private sector. And when it came to having a sense of purpose and devotion to duty, they were unmatched. Do not ever let anyone get away with suggesting otherwise. Okay, so what's it like to be a political appointee, especially in a fairly senior position like an undersecretary billet? I should note that the Bureau of Industry and Security, where Ed and I served, is a regulatory entity, and Ed has already outlined some of its responsibilities, its principal responsibilities. In some ways, having a political appointment to a line position is not all that different from being in the career service. You have a specific job to do, namely keeping a defined activity running efficiently within budget and in conformity with the enabling legislation and implementing regulations. The job is different, though, in several important respects. For starters, your role typically includes making or participating in making decisions about discretionary aspects of your program. This can come in the form of setting priorities, allocating budgeted resources within the program, exercising prosecutorial discretion if it's a regulatory program, and the like. But you rarely ever get to do this in a vacuum. Inevitably, there are broader policies of the administration, often formulated by 20-something White House aides who are fresh off the campaign trail in their first real jobs and not at all knowledgeable about what it is you do. Also, the policies of your agency head and her staff, which also includes some people with, shall we say, limited knowledge and experience. Not to mention the rules as interpreted by OMB, OPM, your agency's human resources, general counsel, and budget offices. You can see it's not as freewheeling as it might look from a distance. If the program involves other agencies, their sensibilities also need to be understood and addressed. And the bureau in which Ed and I served worked very closely with the State Department and the Defense Department, as well as the intelligence community. So we couldn't just operate on our own without consulting with them very closely. And then let's not forget your congressional authorizing, appropriating, and oversight committees and subcommittees, plus your agency's inspector general, always looking over your shoulder, and the Government Accountability Office. Finally, if you have a private sector constituency, and we did, their views also have to be taken into account. This web of interests, and often they are entirely legitimate interests, is the source of my observation that in the federal government, it can take a ton of effort to produce an ounce of result. That doesn't mean that one shouldn't try to improve matters, but it does mean that one can't expect progress to come easily or quickly. I've also found that it's a good place to apply the maxim that it may be preferable to ask forgiveness after the fact than permission beforehand. Second, you are the intermediary or the point of intersection between the career service and the policies of your administration. You can end up spending a substantial chunk of your time mediating differences between the way the career folks do their work and have been doing it, and the way your administration or you would like to see it done a bit differently. Moreover, a political appointee often knows less about his program than the career staff. I should say usually, but not always. This includes comprehending the potential pitfalls of decisions that seem at first blush to be no-brainers, but that come back to bite the political appointee who didn't appreciate their prudential side or secondary effects. It's the source of Hirschhorn's first rule of management, which I formulated during my initial tour of duty at the Department of Commerce 40 years ago. You work for your staff. And with that goes Hirschhorn's corollary, formulated at about the same time. You're probably better off if you know less about the substance than your staff does. To elaborate a bit on this point, I found during my stints in the executive branch that whatever their personal political views might be, members of the career service see themselves as sworn to carry out, subject to the constraints of the law, the policies of the current administration. The political appointee who wrongly assumes that they're unreliable, members of the so-called deep state or the like, does so at her peril. Their knowledge of the program and its constituents, both public and congressional, almost always exceeds that of the appointee. They may disagree, and if they're good, they'll do so to the appointee's face. But in the final analysis, they will provide intelligent, honest advice. Moreover, they will carry out the appointee's instructions even when they might do things differently if the decision were theirs. A related point is that if you do happen to be knowledgeable about your program before you arrive, you might have all kinds of ideas about how you can make it better, change policies, and so forth. All well and good. But the odds are that between 80 and 90% of the items with which you will have to deal are generated elsewhere. Certainly, I found that to be the case. You'll be very lucky if you actually find enough time to make the changes that you think would improve your program. You may occasionally get to speak with the media or testify before Congress. This can be very heady stuff, even though you're constrained by the web of interests that I've been describing. But it can be a two-edged sword. Letting down one's guard in either the media or the congressional setting can be a recipe for disaster. I learned this the hard way. As a young congressional staffer a long time ago, almost 50 years ago, and pretty much was able to keep out of such trouble in my later jobs. Once burned, twice shy. It's important to focus on making the points that you want to make and avoiding the pitfalls that a questioner may set up for you. A typical, somewhat tongue-in-cheek formulation is, your question reminds me of the question I wanted to answer, followed by your answering the question you wanted to answer. You'd be surprised at how often this works, as the questioner, who usually is less well-informed than you are, moves on to his next prepared inquiry. A related aspect of a political appointee's job is who gets the credit for what you might manage to accomplish. On this, I have two thoughts. One is that the more attention your efforts receive, the more likely they are to become targets for criticism that may in time retard or kill them. I told my staff when our export control reform effort began in 2010 that we could either get attention for what we were doing or trying to do, or we could just go ahead and do it, but that the odds of accomplishing both were slim. We took the first course and had a lot of success with export control reform, even though it didn't get a lot of attention. And I had a boss at the time, the Secretary of Commerce, who had been a governor and kept asking me every time he saw me in the hall, when's the press conference? And I still see him occasionally when I visit Washington State, back when I used to travel. When's the press conference? So he hasn't forgotten. The second and closely related point is that you can accomplish a great deal in Washington if you don't care who gets the credit. A final aspect about publicity is that if a newsworthy event or action is good for your administration, the odds are that the White House will announce it. If you're lucky, you might get to brief the White House press corps with attribution only to a senior official. If it's bad news, on the other hand, your agency head, or more likely you, get to deliver the message to the world. Excuse me. If your political appointment is in a regulatory program or a grant-making program, you will find that you're suddenly much more popular than when you were in the private sector. This does not mean that you have become smarter, funnier, richer, or better looking. I think it was George W. Bush who, when asked after leaving office what he missed most about being president, said, "I don't always win at golf anymore." Don't get me wrong. Accessibility of public officials, especially political appointees, to their constituencies and the public at large is an important aspect of our democracy. Indeed, it's expressly recognized in the First Amendment's protection of the right of the people to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Being accessible, however, does not require you to accept gifts, meals, vacations, sports tickets, and the like from members of the public who hope to benefit by being on your good side. Fortunately, at least for officials who are honest, there are detailed rules about what you may and may not accept and may not do. In addition, every agency's Office of General Counsel has at least one lawyer who's knowledgeable about those rules. Of course, that capability is useless if the appointee doesn't take advantage of it. I remember very clearly the advice I received very early in my tenure before speaking to executives of one of the nation's largest exporters, a company with more than a passing interest in the export controls administered by my bureau. I had a terrific ethics lawyer at Commerce, and I checked in with her regularly. On this occasion, she asked whether I expected to be offered any gifts in connection with my appearance. I said, no. Well, maybe a coffee mug, but nothing more than that. No coffee mug, she replied firmly. It's okay to drink the coffee, but you can't accept the mug. So those rules too can be pretty constraining. I want to apologize if I've made a political job sound like something akin to being strapped into a straitjacket with duct tape over one's mouth. My government jobs, all of which were non-career, have been extremely rewarding, not least because of the terrific career people I worked with, and I left each job with a sense of accomplishment. Indeed, if I were 10 years younger and my party were to win next month's election, I would accept another one in a heartbeat. They were great jobs, and the people I worked with were terrific. And I never get tired of telling folks who have not served in government how high level, how excellent, how loyal the career service is. And I hope you all take that to heart. I know you have lived it, and you know that it's true. I'd like to leave you with a thought that I suspect is unnecessary for anyone in this group, but I think it's timely. Many people have marched, bled, and died to protect our right to vote. And regrettably, there remain those, some of them in positions of power, who seek to suppress the votes of citizens whom they see as their political opponents. This year, on top of that perennial problem, we have the terrible pandemic, whose effects include difficulties in staffing our polling places and a reduction in the number of polling places that there are. So first and foremost, please be sure to vote, and make sure your friends and family do so as well. Second, we've all heard about flattening the curve with respect to the pandemic. but we also need to flatten the curve when it comes to voting. So vote as early as you can. That means be sure you're registered. October 13th, which is only a week away, is the deadline in Maryland. I don't know the deadlines for our neighboring states. If you decide to vote in person, consider early voting. If you decide to vote absentee, and Maryland has no excuses absentee voting and has had it for quite a few years, get the mail-in ballot request into your county board as quickly as you can, and do the same with your ballot once you receive it, either by mailing it or dropping it at one of those secure ballot boxes. My wife and I mailed our ballots last week. We got them on Wednesday and mailed them on Friday. They're gone and we don't have to worry about it. And I think we left plenty of time for the U.S. Postal Service to get them to Rockville where they're going. If you procrastinate until the last minute, you risk a long, socially distanced outdoor wait in November weather. Or even worse, having your ballot disqualified because it's mailed too late or reaches the Board of Elections too late. I will close, I think, with that. Implore you to exercise your right to vote, and we'll be happy to take some questions.
Great. Great, Ed. Okay, we've got one person raising their hand, Paul Schwartz. Paul?
I thank you for the presentation. I really found it interesting. My question is, if you had the same position working for Wilbur Ross, how would you have handled his attempts to impact the census, which is under commerce, by putting in that citizenship requirement, and also by trying to have it completed before its full length of the census?
Yeah, fortunately, I had service with secretaries who were much more public spirited and much less partisan than Mr. Ross. As Undersecretary for Industry and Security, I did not have responsibility for the census. So we worked with them some because some of the census statistics are also export control statistics. But I guess hypothetically, you have to push back against things like that. You have to resist them as much as you can. Ultimately, you may have to resign. Fortunately, I was never placed in that sort of a position. I had bosses who were secretaries of commerce who were intelligent and honest people, and who were very interested in the expertise that my bureau and I could provide for them, and they almost invariably followed it. So luckily, I wasn't put in that position.
All right. Let's see, and just to remind everybody, if you've got questions for Ed, you can raise your hand like Paul just did by clicking the button at the bottom, or type them in Q&A and I can read them to you. But let's see, we got another person here. We got Greg. Greg? All right, Greg's getting his mic unmuted. Greg, you might have to, I prompted you, you might have to click the, there you go.
Yes, I work for missile defense. It's various organizations. I think we were BMDO at the time. I did CFIUS, and that was very interesting. I always would take the public information versus the what you call packaged information for CFIUS. And I deal with some people who were doing it. I'm a retired civil servant, and it seems like the effort is to get the cases more compartmentalized, classified, and so forth. And just a comment about that. It seems like the turnaround time and the access to information is being more restricted, and therefore the analysis is less depth and from different sources. So that's more of a complaint than a question. That the from commerce, I always thought you wanted to get as broad an impact as you can, rather than restricting it to limited sources.
Yeah, we were very successful in promulgating the regulations and all the changes we made in the export control system in publishing everything in advance for notice and comment, even though we had the right to go ahead without notice and comment in some cases. I always viewed the public comments as basically highly skilled, free advice. And there are more than a few cases we're hearing from industry stopped us from making changes that would have been pretty unhelpful, both to national security and to industry. Pat Gallagher, who was the head of NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology at the time I was at BIS, and is now the chancellor at the University of Pittsburgh, used to say, if you see us doing something stupid, don't assume we meant it. And that's very good advice. And I often try to impart it to people in the public sector, in the private sector that I spoke to, because as hard as we try, government doesn't always get it right, and it can hurt to get more input from people who know more about it perhaps than you do. So CFIUS it can be a little tricky because there is a lot of issues of proprietary information as well as intelligence information involved. But they've been trying. I had a little bit to do with the new legislation. I was asked by Senator Cornyn's staff to give them some advice about it when they were putting it together 3 years ago. And I think one of the most important things it did was to establish a 2-track system, so that now 3/4 of the CFIUS applications go through almost immediately without any, it's a short form, without any investigation at all, really, depending on the country and the nature of the business being acquired and the technology. But the other quarter is getting more of a scrub than it used to. So I think that's a good reallocation of resources.
Great. Let's see, Eric, we've got Ed Holland on deck with a question, but before we get to Ed, I'm gonna, Jacinta has a question. Are the salaries for work comparable to industry? Are salaries for the work comparable to industry for the same work?
Well, of course, it's never quite the same work. There are differences. The salaries may be lower in terms of what you get each pay period, although not necessarily. Certainly, but when you think about the job security in the federal government, which is much higher than in the private sector, and very importantly, the pension security and benefit security in the federal government, it can be a great place to work. I was in and out of the federal government over time. I have one daughter who's a federal employee, and I think is going to remain that way for her whole career. She's with the VA, and as a psychologist, and she loves it. And she loves not having to worry about all the things you have to worry about in the private sector, you know, getting patients and paying the rent and all that. She just treats her veterans, and that's what she wants to do.
Great. Ed, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. There we go. Yeah, Mr. Hirschhorn, I don't think a lot of folks are aware that the Bureau that you oversaw, the Bureau of Industry and Security, has a strong intelligence and law enforcement components. Would you expand on that for me, please?
Sure, and that's where you worked, Ed, and so you know it well. The Bureau has about 400 employees, and about probably 150 of them are in the intelligence and enforcement area. We have sworn law enforcement agents who investigate export control violations or potential violations, and an intelligence unit that doesn't develop much of its own intelligence, but it seeks both from public sources and from the intelligence community information about individual license applications, as well as suspected violations. And it's a very strong and a very important part of the Bureau's work, because it doesn't do much good to have a lot of regulations that you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't export this and you can't export that if we're not able to enforce them. And Ed and his colleagues did a sterling job in making sure that we kept everybody honest.
Okay, so let's see. Any additional questions, comments? You can either raise your hand or type them in to Q&A. And if not, I think we may be able to transition into a break and have a little bit of time to get up and, walk the dog, grab an extra cup of coffee, do things like that. But
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm very sorry I couldn't be with you all in person.
let me bring Ed back on here. Ed.
Okay. You caught me off guard on that one. So I guess Dr. Roundtree is unavailable. So on behalf of Dr. Roundtree and Dr. Suter, thank you, former Undersecretary Eric Hirschhorn, for briefing us today. And of course, I look forward to following you in the future. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Stay
All
safe
right.
and vote.
There. Okay. Thank you.
I'm back
Okay.
in, Steve.
Hey, Dr. Roundtree. It's amazing, but we're ahead of schedule here.
And what we're going to do is we're going to take a 12 to 15 minute break. And we should be back here about 10, let's see, it's 10 minutes, that's 38, about 10:40.
Okay, great. Okay, so I am going to put the 10:40 break till 10:40 up on the screen, and we will reconvene for more programming. And in the interim, let's see, if you've got any sort of questions related to the format or anything like that, use your Q&A button, and I will do my best to answer those. But I'm going to need to take a little break myself.
And
Okay.
see everybody back at 10:40 sharp.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Hey, PA Jeffries, if you want to test your audio. Hello, PA? Say something. Your audio should be on. PA? PA, can you, if you can hear me, say something. Hi, Kathleen. You had your hand raised. I didn't know if you had a question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Kathleen?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Did you have a question or?
When you call on me to speak, will you unmute me or how does that work?
You'll receive a prompt to be unmuted. So when you're coming over, it'll say the host is asking you to unmute yourself, and you'll click a little button. It should actually do exactly what you just did now.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thanks. Okay, let's see. Ray Oman you have your hand raised. I don't know if you're asking a question or just. Okay. All right, and let's see. So Ray Oman, you've got your hand raised, and then I'm going to work on PA Jeffries. Okay, so PA, I've just asked you to unmute, so you should be able to unmute yourself and talk. There you go. Okay, you're unmuted now, so say something. Huh. Okay, so PA, just so you know, you're unmuted. And I'm assuming you're trying to talk, so there may be an issue with your microphone. You might want to log in and log out again. And just, if you don't mind, I think you may be a phone call person. If you do log in and log out, if you don't mind just typing your phone number in the Q&A box there where I'm communicating with you, and that way I'll know which one is you. But okay. Okay, PA, Jeffries, I just tried to promote you to a panel member to see if maybe that can address it. Okay, PA Jeffries, I added you over into the panelist link. Can you try talking now? You should be unmuted. Okay, I think you've just got an audio issue. So I'm going to give you I'm going to type in my phone number into the chat, into our little chat there, and you can call me. All right, folks. This is Steve Gurney. I'm the voice from behind the curtain. Today, we got about 5 minutes until we restart the meeting. But I wanted to just take this opportunity that if any of you had any technical questions regarding our remaining time together, or any general questions, feel free to either raise your hand or type those into the Q&A box. Let's see. Okay, good. I figured there would be some of these. We've got Charles Garfinkel who's got a question. Charles? Charles, you just done, there you go.
Yeah, all right. Okay, I see it now. So it would that box will come up?
Say that again.
Does the box come up that says unmute?
Yeah, exactly. So that is, you'll be prompted. So like if you're on the program, I'll bring you over and then you'll get that box so that you can talk.
Okay, all right.
Great. Thank you. All right, and let's see. So, okay, and let's see. Yeah, PA Jeffries, I'm trying to work on your connecting with you. I've got your phone number. So if you're part of the program for the remainder period of the time, I will call you on this number that you added in the Q&A. Okay. So, all right. So we got about 3 minutes till the program gets back in gear. Again, I'm just sort of sitting here drinking my cup of coffee and entertaining any questions, or if you're on the program throughout the rest of the program, if you want to just raise your hand to test your audio, I'm happy to accommodate that. If you're in the audience and you've got something you want to share before we get the program kicking in here in about 2 or 3 minutes, by all means, raise your hand or type that in. So I'm just gonna go behind the curtain here, and I'll be bringing on Dr. Roundtree and Ed Holland shortly. But by all means, interact with me via the Q&A box. Okay, we got about a minute to go before the 10:40 clock strikes. So I'm going to bring on Gary Roundtree and Ed Holland to kick off the next segment of our programming.